Welcome everybody to yet the last webinar of the webinars that's been organized by Olga and her team. My name is Adele Kroch and I'm from Food Focus, and it's an absolute pleasure for me to be part of these build-up webinars to assist you guys to start planning to brew the best beer for the competition this year. As you know, we've already had 3 webinars in this week. We had Wouter Steyn from Heineken that spoke about giving you people practical tips in terms of how to boost your beers. After that, we had Jacques Jansen van Rensburg from Laleman, who spoke about fermentation variables, and then Meraldi Kotze, who spoke about the do's and don'ts and how your labels should look like, and she's from PDTS. So today is the last webinar in this series. And if you have missed any of the other webinars that we have hosted, we are going to post the webinars on the university's website specifically for the competition. And we will make sure that you've got the contact details and the link to make sure that you can go and have a look at the different webinars that we hosted. So today, it gives me a pleasure. Remember on Monday, I said that Anton Erasmus will join us today. So it's a great pleasure for me now to hand over to Anton so that Anton can introduce the speaker to you and also just give a little bit more information in terms of the competition this year. So Anton, looking forward to hearing who you're going to introduce. And thank you very much. Over to you.
Hi, folks. Thanks, Adele and Olga, for your patience and for excusing me on Monday. I am here at a great place and I'm on GoToWebinar and I'm very pleased to be using it. Firstly, welcome to all our beer lovers and entrepreneurs. And I say beer lovers, you guys have stuck out well and you obviously love it to hang on to us and to be with us every year. And entrepreneurs, because you're young and you represent the next step for all of us, and that's fantastic. It's also absolutely amazing to have some digital, unfortunately at the moment only FaceTime, but obviously October, in 5.5 months time or so, there'll be real FaceTime as we used to, and we did a hybrid of that last year, and I cannot wait to see you guys again. I'm sure it's apparent to you from seeing what we did with last year's webinars and with this year's promise and the execution of these first 3 webinars that we are absolutely executing on some of the amazing promises we made last year, and things are exciting indeed. And certainly the being able to have digital FaceTime allows us to do lots more of the support program where we don't have to travel so far. Tasting and tasting courses were one of the solemn promises we made last year and was one of the things that you guys were asking us a lot about. So in fulfillment thereof, I have the pleasure of introducing to you Professor Chris Roth, and I say professor, it's very important. The academics have really come to the fore and assisted us with co-hosting, and it's now also important that we give recognition to the academics that are assisting us here. This is very, very important. Chris is a stalwart of the competition since 2008, and since 2009 he's been judging and proctoring the competition for us. He's a BJCP or Beer Judge Certification Program national judge. There are other categories like certified and recognized and all others, but national judge is of the highest pinnacle for South Africa. He's also the BJCP Africa representative. He's arranged many, or certainly several judging exams. I've actually done 2 with him already, one to pass and the second one to practice, and it's a very, very privilege to do so. He's judged in more than 35 competitions. He's also a past chairman of the Gauteng-based Werthogs Brewing Club, and I've been to some of those annual competitions. And certainly before COVID, they were very, very exciting indeed. What Chris is trying to do and what he'd like to do as he has more time on his hands is to do a little bit more brewing at home. And maybe just to let you guys know, there's a lot of sacrifice to being a judge and to being a proctor. You give up the rights to often be a tasting to get your tasting practice going. And Chris has stuck to that for us, and we are very, very pleased for that. So I say he isn't definitely an expert taster, but he also loves to judge, and we rely on that. Chris, I just want to say to you personally, you are a legend and a doyen of our competition. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, as Anton said, I've been involved with this competition since it started in 2008. I am sitting at the University of Pretoria right now, but I'm not really involved with the university's team at all. I've been involved with the judging and the organization of this competition since about 2009. I actually took part in the first time. It's great to be here. I'm sure a lot of you have met me already at previous iterations of the competition. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to seeing a few of you later this year in Bloemfontein. Right, Olga asked me to speak about the 2021 BJCP style guidelines and how it's going to affect the intervarsity. I'm not going to speak for too long, because when I started putting this together and looking at the nitty-gritty of what's going on there's not much in the way of serious changes that's going to affect anything at the intervarsity. But I do want to go through a few things and speak about some of the things that might be slightly different this year. You've all got the challenge to participate. Let's just see, hang on, just got to go there so I can change the slide. There we go. Right, towards the end of 2021, the guidelines were published, the new they call the 2021 guidelines. The date is that for exam purposes, I think that the 2015 guidelines are being used up to the end of August this year, and after that the 2021 guidelines must be used for exams. For competitions, you can use either set of guidelines up to the end of this year, and from the beginning of 2023 we're expected to use the 2021 guidelines. But there's not really much in the way of changes. We decided to use the 2021 guidelines for the competition, seeing as it's towards the end of 2022. As I've just illustrated here, a brief summary, it's a fairly minor revision to the 2015 guidelines. 2015 guidelines was quite a major revision and renumbering and rearranging of all the beer styles. This is a fairly minor revision, and really just the most important issues there I've listed. Some style descriptions each description has been reviewed, edited and updated. We'll go through a little bit of exactly what that means. It really doesn't mean much in terms of change to the actual content of what's in the guidelines. And then there are a couple of styles that have been added, very, very few, not too many. More detail of what they say about what's actually changed, and I'll go through it here. It's really just rearranging some of the language. They say some duplication has been eliminated. In general, the new guidelines are a little bit briefer. I'm not sure if that's really a great advantage or not. They talk about consistent language. I guess previous guidelines may be written by a few different people, and they try to make it more consistent. Introduction expanded, and the glossary as well, and then a completely new introduction to the specialty beers section. Again, it doesn't say a lot different. Maybe it gives a little bit more detail about guidance when it comes to entering a specialty beer, and guidance when it comes to judging a specialty beer. Some other minor changes which are maybe quite important, certainly in one or two places for us. Keller beer, we've never really had that one. It's moved from being a style and a European style to the historical style. Goza, seeing as Goza is becoming more common, and we saw a couple of examples of Goza at last year's InterVarsity. It was in the historical beer section. It's now got its own category under European sour. And then for some reasons, Trappist ale is now monastic ale, I guess because it covers a number of Belgian styles, not just brewed by Trappist, but also the Abbey beers, which are not related to a specific Trappist monastery. And the Trappist single similarly has been renamed Belgian single, and Clone beer has been renamed to commercial specialty beer. That's not going to change it. That doesn't affect us much, but that is if you make enter a home brew which is based on a commercial beer which doesn't fall under a particular style, like for example Orval. And previously you would have entered it as an Orval clone. Now it's a commercial specialty, but it's just a different name. When it comes to the changes that have had to be made to the challenge to participate, there really wasn't very much that we changed, and you can see here in the track changes version of the document what I had to change. There's a new, under the IPA category, there's a new class on its own, a subcategory on its own, 21C. Previously there was only 21A and B, and 21C is now hazy IPA or the New England IPAs. and it's been given its own subcategory. Previously, you could have entered a New England style IPA as a specialty 21B, so it's now just it's got its own subcategory 21C, but it makes no difference to what you needed to enter. It just means you now enter it as a 21C rather than as a specialty under 21B. So that doesn't really change too much. The lager category A, nothing has changed, so I didn't make any changes there. B is the IPA. C, the sour beer. There's been, like we saw in the previous slide, Gurza has now got its own category. So instead of just being sour beers 23A to 23F, we've now got the G as well, which is Gurza, its own subcategory. Previously, you would have entered that as a mixed fermentation sour beer under 28B or something. So again, it hasn't really changed anything that you can enter. And there's an additional foreign style under the X categories, X4, which is a Catarina sour from Brazil. If you really wanted to enter that previously, you would have also entered it as a 28B, but it's got its own subcategory, X4 Catarina sour. That's not a style that I know anything about. I've just for our own interest listed a couple of the things there that they say about it. I've never had one, but again, if someone wanted to brew that previously, you would have entered it as a 28B. Now you can enter it as a 28C. You can read a little bit about it here. It sounds interesting. I've never tasted an example, but it's you see there, it seems to be a sour wheat beer with a slightly stronger fruit and often tropical fruit nature. And the comparison that down below might give us a better idea. Stronger Berliner Weisse, but with fresh fruit and no bread, less sour than Lambic and Geuser, and without bread character. And like they said, you could have entered it previously as a 28C wild specialty beer or something. So if anyone's interested, that might be an interesting subcategory for someone to try and enter in this year's sour categories. The other categories haven't changed, the African wild ale and the summer beers. There were no styles specified there. You've just been asked to suggest whichever BJCP subcategory yours is most closely aimed at. Right, we're going to maybe mention this a little bit later as well. It's not directly related to today, but I thought I just wanted to mention it, that for next year we want to introduce a aged or matured beer category. You'll have seen that in the challenge to participate, and if there are any questions towards the end, we can discuss that, and Olga and Anton can assist in the thinking behind this. But I just listed the styles that would work well for an aged beer. None of these have changed numbers or anything from previous years. They really just been just listed there. The descriptions have changed slightly from the previous iteration, but the numbers haven't, and there's just a couple of the styles that will work well for something that you can age quite well. To give an idea of what's really changed in terms of apart from one or two things added, just how each description has changed, I just chose something that will illustrate it quite nicely. 10A Weissbier, which is something most of us will know reasonably well. What it should be. On the left, I've got the 2015 guidelines, and on the right, the 2021 guidelines. You can see that the right is slightly shorter. They've tried to make it briefer, which is what I mentioned, but there's not really much in the way of different content. I guess this is their attempt to make it a little briefer and to use more consistent terminology. But if you compare the two there, you can really see that there's not too much different. The overall impression is very similar. The aroma, they've made it a little bit shorter, maybe dropped a few things. Appearance pretty much the same. Here's the next two entries in the guidelines, flavor and mouthfeel. Again, you can see the 2021 is slightly shorter, but it doesn't really say much different. Like I said in the beginning, I'm not too sure if we've gained much by making it a few sentences briefer. I think the previous descriptions were maybe a little easier to understand. They've tried to use shorter sentences and maybe not even full sentences in places. But the change to what's there is very, very insignificant. The comments and the history is pretty much the same. The comments they've shortened a little bit without saying much about the Mithefer and what it's known as in America. Really just tried to summarize it somewhat. Characteristic ingredients, they've cut that down a little bit as well. You can see on the right they've tried to be more consistent in that they've got a style comparison and an entry instructions entry for every single style now. In the past, if there was nothing important to add, they might have dropped the style comparison and the entry instructions parts, but they've now tried to include that to be consistent. Vital statistics, very little has changed. If you look carefully, the OG upper range of the OG has gone from 1.052 to 1.053. I don't know how significant that is or where that came from, but there are some very, very minor changes to the vital statistics if you go through the various styles, but really nothing very significant. And then the commercial examples, you'll see one or two have dropped out on the left. The Paulana has dropped out for some reason, and they've added a couple in on the right that weren't originally there, the Hofbrauhaus. Again, this is reasonably typical of what's happened to the descriptions of each subcategory. Fairly insignificant changes, attempts at maybe shortening what's listed there, but nothing significant has changed. In one or two places, the vital statistics have changed very, very insignificantly, and then commercial examples have been updated. I guess they may have realized that maybe one or two of the commercial examples which weren't so good representatives anymore, and there were some others that they put in. But overall, generally fairly insignificant changes to the content of what's there. Okay, just as a last comment, and I know Anton is quite big on this, they've added one or two things to this Appendix B, which is local styles. Earlier I mentioned that they've now added the Catarina Sour as a Brazilian style that wasn't there before, and this New Zealand Pilsner as a New Zealand style. And Anton is very keen, and we've been speaking about it, of getting some African styles listed here. Some people say you have to get Gordon Strong, who's the guys at the BJCP in charge of this. The best is if he visits your country and you take him out for a few beers and something to eat, then he's happy to add it in. But I think we must push. We must choose an African style or two and really push it and try and get some of the African styles listed here under the local styles. Right, that's really what I wanted to say about all of this. Like I said, there's not much in the way of significant changes that we really need to worry about. Just note the slight changes to the challenge to participate. But that's really all that I wanted to say about that. Okay, any questions? I see we've moved on to the Q&A. I think that's going to be for me and for everybody, or for Anton and for Olga and everyone who's here to answer questions on this and the challenge to participate.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. Attendees, now it's your turn to ask any questions on the BJCP guidelines or the challenge to participate, the rules. Now's your time. So if you've got any questions, just raise your hand so that I can unmute you, and then you can ask the question directly to Olga, to Anton, and to Chris. I'm sure that there must be some questions from your side. Olga, Anton, Chris, if you can put your cameras on so that the team can see you, so we can just understand if there's any questions coming from their side. It's really your opportunity now. They're here, they're ready, they're prepared to answer anything. Let's see, is there any questions? It seems like the webinars was done so well that we've answered all the questions, Olga. So we're quite grateful in terms of the setup of the webinars, because I can't see any hands going up. If you would not like, okay, fantastic, Anton, you go for it.
I think it's very significant. I mean, Chris downplayed some of that stuff. I think some of the language that we use to talk about beer styles sometimes is frightening and frightens some people off. So there are still two now. There are now two versions. So if you want to get fluffy and look at the old one, It's not changed much apart from the styles and the 28X or B or C. That's changed, obviously. So it's nice that people are looking at that. And I think the most significant thing, well, the two things there that stood out was that Africa, the gap for Africa. We've been speaking about it for a while. Rake and Olga and Chris and one or two other people that I know from the Roth days that have gone into Africa a lot. There's crazy stuff in Africa. And that's not just that the one batch is different to the next batch, so therefore we've got two beer styles. There's stuff that's stylistically quite stubborn and quite intact, which we can go and tap into, which is really crazy. And the one that I really enjoyed the most was the second last thing you showed, where the brewer and the person that's entering the entry gives basic instructions to the taster as to what to do with it, whether you rouse it or maybe also what the intended purpose of that liquor was. If you're going into a beer tasting and there's 2 or 3 that are scoring 45 out of 50, and one of the instructions was, please glug my beer because this beer is made for sessionability. If that beer is the most sessionable of the 3 that scores 45, that beer deserves to win. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for people to almost be at the table, even though they are 1,000 kilometers away. We've actually been working on this with the European Beer Style Guidelines as well. And I think it's the way it's going to go. But certainly we need to sit down and work out how to populate some of that Africa stuff. SAB, I just represent them. We have got contacts throughout Africa, and it will not be a problem to get hold of stuff. So I'm putting up my hand at least for that so far.
Awesome. Olga, it really seems like we've answered all the delegates' questions. Because no one is putting a hand up. Oh, and Anthony. Anthony, I'm going to unmute you. You are absolutely yourself muted. Just unmute yourself and please do ask your question.
Good afternoon. Hi, Anton. Hi, Chris. Hi, everyone. The one thing with the BJCP guidelines that is particularly useless for South Africans is the commercial examples. In that unless you go to Europe or America, you usually don't have access to any of those commercial examples. So would it be maybe possible to have some of our local examples that are very good examples of certain styles listed, just so that people will be able to taste those styles and see the flavors matching up to the styles that are actually written in the BJCP guidelines?
Anthony, hi. Yes, I think that's great. Not only that, amongst those commercial examples, I'm not blowing any trumpets of any particular crowd here, but there is sexiness to have scale. SAB and some of our competitors own 1 or 2 of the Signal overseas examples. So let us put our money where our mouth is. I'll try and see if I can scratch some budget together and get some of those really amazing Signal and Seminole and flag in the ground examples, that we can actually get some of them. And South Africa does make some astonishing examples of this. I mean, just Newland Spring, just on SAB side, Newland Spring has got some crazy beers. They don't always fit right into the middle of one of the BJCP styles and sub-styles, but certainly we can take 1 or 2 of those that are readily available and give all the gin as we as tasters think they are and what we think they are, and then maybe publish some of those and tell you where you can buy and get hold of those samples. But certainly for the tasting we want to do from the end of May onwards, we need to see what we can get our hands on so that we take the same kinds of beers for the tasting roadshow, and that the guys can taste the same kind of beers that we are pushing as part of the competition. Okay, so we're looking to that. Well done, Anthony. I think it's a great idea.
Olga, anything, Chris, from your side?
Yeah, Anton muted. There we go. Then I can talk. Yeah, this is Anthony's well aware of this issue. It's been an issue for a while. The first time I took the BJCP exam was 2007, 2008, and we got almost none of those commercial styles that they listed. We had to take our best guess at the local styles. Unfortunately, we had a few good homebrewers who tried to brew what they interpreted some of those foreign styles as, and that's the best we did, and it's improved quite a bit over the years, but certainly we can still only get a handful of those commercial styles that they list. We ran a BJCP exam a month or so ago, And in the preparations for the exam, it was again an issue. We sourced a few of those brands at the local liquor city and so on, but again, we had to make a bit of a guess. And we, going through it, we tried to identify the best local commercial ones that we could get a hold of. And I don't think there's much chance of us submitting it to the BJCP and getting them to include it in the list, but I think I can maybe slightly formalize that list of the good local examples and distribute it. That might help. And the guys who took the exam certainly benefited from that, and we had to judge the local ones according to the guidelines, and we had a pretty good idea afterwards whether it was a good representative or not. So I'll just formalize that list, and then I can try and distribute it on the website or something, because I think that would help as well.
That's awesome. Anthony, thank you for the good question. And it just shows you, if you ask the right questions at the right platform, then activities can happen. And we've got commitment there. So that sounds good. That sounds definitely good. Yes, Anton.
I mentioned to Olga early on in the week, and I mentioned to Chris this morning earlier, and in support of that, those aged and those historical and aged beer that slide he showed, some of the beers that we brought to Bryanston in 2020, yeah, for that very, very difficult to run competition we did on the first year of COVID. Half of those samples were still in our fridge, and because we got massive generators, none of the lockdowns have affected that. So the refrigeration and the computers and the emergency lighting and that kind of stuff stays on. And I was told to please take some of those samples home and throw them away, kind of thing, because they're also full of labels which our bottle washers cannot remove easily. And some of those beers, and almost everyone was obviously bottle conditioned. Some of those beers were astonishing. They were never made to be drunk 18 months later. They are absolutely unbelievable. And I think all the work we've done we've done it a few years explaining exactly how bottle conditioning and stuff works. It's actually amazing what it can do. And I think it's a skill that you will learn in this kind of competition way before any of the commercial guys would learn that. And I think some of the bottle conditioning stuff, which we can speak about now, and also what Kyle did a couple of years ago and discussed it as on one of the webinars, is very, very topical to having beers that are going to be matured and you're going to taste, say, in 16 months or 14 months time in more than a year. So guys, brush up again on your bottle conditioning stuff. It's amazing, and it's not just a case of scavenging the oxygen and putting some bubble into your pour. There are styles to the yeast that you can use. There are dosing rates to the yeast you can use. The dosage that you will use, that you can use to actually feed the yeast, not just on the stuff that's in the beer, but what you can, the guys in champagne, when they're making champagne, they actually add often a small amount of cognac with the sugar and the dosage. So there's all kinds of things you can use, and it does make a massive difference to the final product. And it's worth it if you think about you're waiting for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years for some beer styles. You get some of these Belgian styles where you see the beer's already a year old and they're giving it another 2 or 3 years on a shelf life. It's all based on them having absolute comfort on the capability of their bottle conditioning. And you can't make a good beer out of a bad stock, but you really can make an exceptional beer out of good stock if you know exactly how to do your bottle conditioning. The big guys like AB InBev and SAB and Heineken, and I'm sure they wouldn't mind me saying this, that's not their forte anymore. But the smaller guys and some of the specialist older brewers, the historical brewers, still do it. And it makes one heck of a difference. I was absolutely astonished. In fact, 1 or 2 of those bottles built up such a pressure that when I took one of the cases out of the car, the case was still ice cold. And I put it down on the grass, the one cork popped. And I think it went about 20 meters in the air and immediately emptied that bottle completely. There was nothing left at all. And then I gingerly opened the rest and they all flew off, and I managed to taste a little bit of what was left. It's absolutely astonishing what you can do with bottle conditioning. So what you're learning here, those who want to go and play with craft or maybe get involved in a big brewery and want to offer that as a skill that the rest of the guys maybe don't know, you're not far off. It's a differentiated skill that you can offer to the brewing industry, certainly.
I was saying, Pauline, if you can just unmute yourself, you can ask Chris the question you want to.
Hi, Adele.
Hi, Pauline.
Thank you so much. No, I just wanted to know if it would be possible to organize a BJCP taster exam for those partaking in the competition, maybe, if some of us are interested in going that route with our careers.
Thank you, Pauline. Chris, that question was for you.
Yeah, we would love to organize exams. I'm not sure if you're specifically asking, can we do one at the InterVarsity one time? I think we've been speaking a little bit about that informally with Olga and Anton, and it could be done. I'm not sure about this year, but we could check on that. I'm not sure where you're from, Pauline, but we try to organize competitions in Gauteng every year or two, depends on numbers. The guys in Cape Town often try to organize a competition, the Southeasters or the Helderberg Brewers. They try to organize competitions, but certainly get in touch with me. At times it's a bit difficult because we often start with 20 people, and this time we ended up with about 5 or 6 who actually wrote it. So it's a bit difficult to organize and make sure that people do it, but I'm keen to organize more competitions, most definitely. I'm not sure where you are, but please contact me. There'll probably be another one in Gauteng later this year, or well, probably not this year, but next year sometime. And we can talk about organizing one at an InterVarsity one time. If there's enough interest, we could probably squeeze it in somewhere, Saturday morning or something.
Yeah, maybe after the presentation, there's a survey, Pauline. So maybe everybody that will be interested in doing this, just write it on the survey. So that will then give Olga the numbers, and that would give guidelines in terms of how many people are interested. That seems like all the questions. Olga, I don't know if you've got a final word to say or something that you want to say, or Anton from your side, and then we can end off.
Thanks, Adele. Yeah, I just want to say again that if you have questions about the challenge to participate, please email me. Our website will be open for sign up next week, and we will post all the recordings of the webinar, and you will also find all the documents that I've sent through to you in the document vault on the website, and we'll also include a little instructional video on how to sign up to the website.
Definitely. Anton, any final words from your side?
Yeah, I think after what, can you hear me just quickly? Yeah.
Yes.
After what Chris has said about the styles, we're going to make very, very sure that we make all our style guidelines on the competition this year. We'll just fix them and make sure that we're up to date with that. And yeah, I just, in answer to what Chris said now to that previous question, certainly there's every chance that we could add a day to this competition and have some other events at our actual hosting venue. I mean, I'm sure Olga would be able to give you more information, but if we needed to do a tasting, if we needed to record it, if we needed to have a judging competition, I mean, what better place than to let people get the recognition for what they're doing, that it can be recorded and shown, and let also the rest of the students see what it looks like to take part in a tasting competition, in a judging competition, to actually become a judge. It will take a little bit of the fear away from it, and then maybe entice a lot more students to take advantage. If you think of all the exciting things that happen around the craft industry, like the Cicerone and the beer sommelier that's growing all over the world, they'll get a very good idea of what that looks like by seeing the kinds of stuff that we could add to the actual hosting event. That's very possible.
Awesome. From my side, thank you very much, everybody, for joining. As we said, the recordings will be available on the InterVarsity Brew website. And like Olga also mentioned, documentation, the challenge to participate was emailed to you, and the guidelines. So make sure that you go to the website. Everything will be up from next week. And most of the speakers did provide their contact details and said that everybody is welcome to contact them should they have any further questions. So I just want to say, Olga, thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you for everything that you are doing to assist the students. Chris, thank you for your valuable time. Anton, for your input. And may you have a blessed weekend, and may it be a good long weekend, a safe one. And remember, don't drink and drive. Yes, yeah, no, you may, but no driving. And hope to see you guys in person at the competition in October. Have a blessed weekend. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.